Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is going to be my episode thoughts and reflections and review of episode 1 of The Wheel of Time by Amazon. Going to go through it scene by scene, so alert, there will be spoilers. Because I'm going to be talking about scenes from the movies. Spoiler for the books, because I'm going to be talking about comparisons to the books and stuff like that. Just talking about what I liked about it, what I disliked about it. A little background, I've been reading the book since 2005, so about 16 years now, so not as long as a lot of people, but I'm probably around 20, 25 rereads right now because I read them at least, or reread the whole series at least once a year. At least once a year. But yeah, I am a huge fan of books. I have a whole tattoo sleeve of Wheel of Time that I'm still working on, actually. Massive fan of the books. So, yes, spoilers again. Just want to put the second warning in there. I came into this expecting a retelling of the story. I expected just another turning of the wheel. This time the third age comes again, because that's how it was described by the showrunner Raf Judkins and a couple others during interviews and stuff. So I was not expecting a full-on scene-for-scene recreation of the books. You just can't do it. The books are massive, and even if you did a season a book, it would be 14 seasons, which is insane. You just can't do that. So I'm expecting things to get cut. I was expecting things to get changed. Some of the changes caught me by surprise. Some did not. I like some of them. I don't like some of them. Yeah, let's get into it. First off, right off the bat, a couple things just in general. One, I like the show. I really like the show. I think it does what it's trying to do. And I think it does it really, really well. For instance, in fantasy books, shows, that kind of thing, world building is really hard without a lot of exposition dumps. Season 1 Game of Thrones had a massive amount of exposition dumping. Even Marvel movies have this problem. It's really hard to do smoothly. I think the Wheel of Time writers have killed it. Because they do exposition in a variety of different ways. There's no one character like Moraine. By the way, I'm going to say names sometimes the way the show says them, sometimes the way I have them in my head canon, because I'm still, yeah, it's just how it is. But Moraine does a little bit of expositioning, but she doesn't do it for a long period of time. And I like that. Like, the first scene is her getting just ready to head out with Lan, and she's just narrating over it, but it's really quick. A lot of times I don't like in shows where one character is telling another character something that both should already know. And Wheel of Time avoids that. Anytime Moraine does exposition to somebody, it's coming from a place where that person does not know info that they should know. And she's clarifying something or explaining something that that character doesn't know. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but they also do exposition in really clever ways that I really like, particularly between Rand and Tam. There's a scene we'll talk about later. But yeah. And also the acting, phenomenal. My immersion was never broken by bad acting or cheesy acting or hamminess. It was amazing all the way through. Even people that didn't have a lot of lines or almost any lines did an amazing job acting. Particularly, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but Matt's mom and Matt's dad, phenomenal performances. Even though they didn't have a whole lot, their scenes are captivating. It draws you into the world. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So yeah, first scene is her and Lan heading out. One of the first scenes after that, the very next scene, is something that I was not expecting, and I'm going to move everything over a little bit. I was not expecting this, and it was one of the cooler scenes, in my opinion. I'm going to change this. There we go. One of the cooler scenes, because it is a little bit of world building in the fact that you get to see madness, but the way they portrayed the madness was so cool. I love it. Explained a little bit about Reds without having to explain a little bit about Reds, but also it's a really good look into Moraine's views on the dragon, because as soon as he gets gentled, she's like, it's not him. And that's because in the books, she knows that the wheel weaves the dragon for a specific purpose, and that some random group of Reds is not going to be able to stop the dragon. Her whole thing was to guide and protect him from going to the Dark One. Not necessarily, she didn't necessarily think he could be stopped in the normal way. She knew the prophecies. She knew that was going to happen. It was just guiding him to make good decisions along the way. And you really see that when she goes, it's not him. And Lan goes, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, it's not him. Because she knows that wouldn't happen to the actual dragon. And her trust in the wheel weaving. I love it. The scene with Egwene and Nynaeve, the raising her into womanhood, she gets to braid her hair. Beautiful scene. Such a good scene. So glad they created this one because it gives lore and depth to the Two Rivers culture. Which, interesting note, I've watched it a couple times now. I have not caught Edmonds Field, the name, once. They refer to the Edmonds Field as the Two Rivers rather than the Two Rivers being a general area with Terran Ferry and Edmonds Field and a couple others. So just interesting aside. But yeah, it gives lore and depth to their culture. A lot of foreshadowings with the river itself. She struggles when she tries to fight the river, but as soon as she surrenders to it, she's able to run with it. And it's like Sadar and how women wield the one power. Really, really cool way to do that, to foreshadow things like that. Edmonds Field itself, what a absolutely gorgeous set. It is absolutely beautiful. Some people are going to be upset, oh, there's not 8 chimneys. Who cares? This set is beautiful. Oh, and leads me to another thing. This show in 3 episodes has done what Game of Thrones struggled to do its entire run, and that's show the scale of the world. This is a massive world, and they do such a phenomenal job showing that. My wife has not read the books, and around episode 2, she goes, I wonder where they are on a map. So I went over, grabbed the book off the shelf, and showed them how on the map they really hadn't traveled all that far yet, and it blew her mind that the world was this big. They do a really good job of showing the scale of this world. So that's just an aside. But yeah, Edmonds Field, gorgeous set, beautiful episode. I really like the filming style of this. Even the dark scenes at night are not too dark. It's not like where you're trying to turn your brightness up on your TV and stuff like that. The Edmonds Field looks vibrant and beautiful and green. It's just beautiful. But we'll get into more of that in the next episode. Michael McCatton or McKelton, however you say that. I have loved his character in Game of Thrones. He is killing it as Tam. Him as Tam is such perfect casting because Tam is very gentle, but he's also somewhat stoic. The gentleness and the affection for Rand is under that layer of stoicism, and I think he does an amazing job portraying that. You get the sense that this man has seen the world and has just come back to home. And he doesn't ever say it to Rand very much, but you get the sense just him looking at him that he has deep affection for this boy. And I love it. Edmonds Field again, yeah, just a brilliant, brilliant set. Costume design is amazing. I love the costumes. I love the clothes they're wearing. I love how everything's decorated. Just beautiful. So now we come into the big changes. Perrin and Layla, or Lila. In the books, he's not married. Huge change. I had heard rumors that this was going to be a thing, but I had not had it confirmed. I'm not that deep into the community and other content creators and producers and stuff like that. But I actually really like this change. As another content creator reading the pattern said, it borders on fridging. Spoiler alert, he kills her. It borders on fridging, but I think they had to do it in this case. If you don't know what fridging is, TV tropes. It's when you kill off a female character to inspire a male character to do something. And it comes from comics when, I believe it was Green Lantern, his wife or girlfriend was killed, stuffed in a fridge, and that inspired him to take action. That happens to Tom in the books, in one of the books, somewhere in the mid of the series, 3 or 4, I think so. Anyway, I think they had to do it in this case, though, and I think they did it well. I wish we had spent more time with her. I would have loved to get to know more of their relationship, because it looks like something happened, as far as a baby is concerned. And I'd be interested to know what that was. And maybe that's something they're going to explore in the future. I would really like to know that. But the difficulty with Perrin, and the showrunner and the actor have both talked about this, is Perrin in the books is very internal. Almost all of his stuff is internal monologue. So in the books, when you have an internal monologue, it's very easy to explain why he doesn't like to carry the axe. You can't do that in a show well, other than him telling another character why he doesn't want to carry an axe. And that just isn't Perrin. So they had to put something in where a new viewer like my wife could see why in the future he might be hesitant to pick up the axe. He might be hesitant to let that side of him that loses control in battle go. And watching it with my wife, I saw that she immediately picked up on that. She immediately... We'll get into that in other episodes. But anyway, I think they had to do it, and I think they handled it really, really well in not a overused trope kind of way. Her death scene is the one that had the most emotional impact on me. I was like tears down the cheeks during that scene, even though I didn't get to spend much time with them as a couple. I think the time we did spend them was well used. I think you had to do it in this way to pay off certain things later, as far as like why he doesn't want to pick up an axe and that kind of stuff. But I think it was just well done. I'm interesting that she's the blacksmith with him instead of Master Lujan. A very interesting change. Pretty cool. I think that's going to pay off later, as a way for him to remember her. Matt had some changes. Matt's family and some of his personality. Initially, I was meh about these changes. I understood the why, but I didn't necessarily like it. But that is largely, I think, because I have read, and I know Matt at the end, for most of the series, in fact, and I love his character. Perrin's my favorite, but I love Matt. Rereading the first couple books, he is annoying as a character. And I think they're leaning into that side of him. Um, they're leaning into the comparison that Swan makes in the books later when she's talking about her Uncle Juan, um, where he is a gambler, he's a drinker, he's a ne'er-do-well, but he charges into the building for the people that he loves. In this case, it's Matt charging out of a building for the people he loves later on. I think they're really leaning into that side of Matt, expanding it and driving it home, and I'm kind of here for it. The guy that would steal somebody that he likes' bracelet so that he could buy 3 lanterns, and they're very specific. He buys 3 lanterns, 1 for him and 2 for his sisters later on. I think they're leaning into that, and I like it. His parents being broken people, I think, adds to the layers to him. In episode 3 in particular, you're going to see him torn. Part of Matt wants to get out of the 2 rivers and wants to live the life that he's always wanted. But having this layer to him where he wants to stay home for his sisters to protect them, I like that. I do. I gotta say, initially I didn't like the changes they were making. I could understand them, but I didn't like them. The more I think about it and the more I watch it, the more I like it. The scene where his mom tells him, "You're going to turn out just like your dad." Wow. Talk about an emotional gut punch. That's good. And I think that's going to pay off character arc wise. Also, him being bad at gambling in the one scene where they're talking about gambling and he's lost a lot of money, that's just going to make when his tavern nature picks back up, which, by the way, I've been saying that wrong my whole life, but I'm going to say it wrong still. Sorry, Moraine. Yeah, it's going to pick when he discovers what his tavern nature can do. It's just going to make that pay off so much better. Rand and Egwene being together. I like it. I like that they've aged them up. It really adds depth to their relationship. It makes why some of the things he does makes sense. Why he's so desperate to get reunited later. The back and forth between them with the banter is amazing later on. And I think that's just going to continue to pay off as it moves, as the series moves forward and as they start diverging and then at the very end coming back together. I think this depth that they're adding now is going to pay off even more so later. Lan and Moraine's relationship. One, I know a lot of people love this scene. Lan's hot buns are going to be a hot seller. Lan may have needed the bath warmed up, but I don't think a lot of other people did. I think a lot of people liked how steamy it was. But anyway, I love their relationship. Both actors have said that it's a completely platonic, not sexual relationship. Some people were reading sexual vibes into this scene. I did not get any of that. But maybe that's because I know that in the Borderlands, public baths are how they do it. They do public baths, and so it's not a big deal for them. Moraine being somebody that has traveled the world over and been exposed to a lot of different cultures, it's not a big deal for her. I was not getting a sexual vibe out of this at all. I was getting 2 friends chilling together. And I like that. I like that little reference or homage to him being a Borderlander in a scene that we may or may not get later in other seasons. Paddington, man, Johan Myers is so good with such little screen time. He immediately puts you in the character of who Paden Fane is, and what a performance. I love every scene this dude is in, and it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. This scene with Rand and Egwene was another one that I had tears welling up. It's so beautiful, where they're affectionate to each other, they're loving and supporting of each other, and she goes, "I'm going to," and he goes, I already knew. And they just sit there looking out together, and his talking about how he wants to raise a family, and he's wondering about the wife he's going to marry and the kids he's going to have. Brilliant, beautiful scene that I just love so absolutely much. That being said, there are some scenes that I do not like. The sacred pool scene with Nynaeve and Moraine. I don't like this scene, and I don't think I'm not ever gonna not like the scene. The more I think about it, the more I don't like it. Because my first big quibble is that it's completely unnecessary. Her mentor having gone to the White Tower and gotten turned away and stuff like that, giving Nynaeve this bitterness, it's completely unnecessary. I get that they want to add layers to Nynaeve and explain her distrust of Moraine a bit more, but you don't need to. Her being protective and feeling like she is responsible for the other four is enough motivation. Her being a leader of this village at such a young age is enough to distrust this woman who's just coming and sweeping them away. I think Robert Jordan did an amazing job portraying why Nynaeve and Moraine butt heads. And I think they should have leaned into that. I think they should have shown more about why she was so unusually young for her position and how people were iffy about that. Rather than making a backstory for the previous wisdom. The sacred pool is unneeded, which we're going to get into a little later. I just think that this scene, you could have done so many things to show Nynaeve being a young leader and her being protective and feeling responsible for the other four, rather than this really, to me, clunky scene. And it's not because of the acting. It's just because I don't think it was needed character-wise. Nynaeve is a rich enough, deep enough person on her own where she doesn't need anything added to her. It's not like Perrin where all of her stuff is internal. Nynaeve tells you what she's thinking very strongly. Perrin you have to add things to because you can't do internal monologue. Nynaeve is not the same. Other thing I don't like, they go really heavy-handed with the Dragon Fang symbols and signs, and they don't do it in the right way. I hate to say it, but they don't. Lan finds these sheep butchered. Later on in episode 3, you have the sacred pool and a dragon's fang there as well. The whole point of the dragon's fang is that it was the symbol of the male Aes Sedai. That over thousands of years of men going mad has turned into a bad thing. And yes, some people, like yokels from some backwater village or white cloaks and stuff like that, they may use the dragon sign as a bad symbol because they have forgotten or don't understand what the dragon's fang is. A creature of the dark would never use the dragon's fang. The dragon was the enemy of the Dark One. Why would they do anything with his sign or symbol? If anything, they should fear it because he is their enemy. A Fade would never use the dragon's fang, and I don't understand why they're being really heavy-handed with that sign and symbol. When it's used in the books, usually, it's either by people that have just, because it's been so much time since the dragon existed, that they've forgotten who he was, and they're using it as a sign for the Dark One. But no, I don't think any creature of the Dark One ever uses the dragon's fang. Or it happens because somebody spills hot pies and boom, they land in a dragon's fang symbol, whatever. But yeah, the scene with the sheep was just really weird. And later on in episode 3, the sacred pool scene is just really odd. The listening to wind scene, good. I liked it with Nynaeve and Egwene. I don't have a picture of that scene, but a great example of adding something that does explore the lore, and dive into that a little more. The scene with the lanterns, very, very cool. I love that Matt was buying 3 again. But with like Tam and Rand in that scene, that's an example of how you can do exposition in a way that's not clunky. Because in that one little scene with Tam and Rand lighting the thing at their farm, lighting the lantern at their farm, you got to explore the lore of the wheel weaving, and the ages coming and going constantly. You got the lore and the story of how souls are reborn. It's not just the dragon, it's everybody's soul is reborn and finds their way home. You got the fact that Tam's wife is dead, and it didn't feel like it was heavy exposition. It felt like a dad talking to his son and comforting him. And it's just a really cool way where you can add lore and depth without being clunky about it. The battle, or should I say the slaughter, and holy crap, I did not pick up on this in the books, but I did not think the Trollops were going to rip that town apart like they did. It just didn't seem like that big of a deal when I was reading the book scene, but I always thought it was just a light skirmish. I did not think they were going to do that. I thought they came into town, Moraine and Lane handled them, and in doing so, a few buildings were lit on fire by the Trollops, and a couple people died. I did not expect this level of slaughter. Wow. If anyone thought they were going to shy away from violence or shy away from the brutality of Trollops, you thought wrong. They leaned into it, even to the little things of Trollops stopping mid-battle to feed, whether it's a human or another Trolloc. They leaned into that. Absolutely brutal. The Trollocs themselves, it was interesting because my wife, who does not read the books, does not know anything about the Trollocs, she caught on to the fact that they have different animal parts. That they'll have horns of a deer or of a ram or of weird horns. That some of them are more wolf-like, bear-like, eagle-like. The look of these guys is amazing. They did such a good job with the Trollocs. How they move, how some of them bound forward on 4 legs and some of them are running forward. Their speed, their size, their ferocity, they nailed these guys. They look great. Really phenomenal job. Matt running out to protect his sisters. Brilliant. Just great scene. The other one that caught me by surprise was Nynaeve getting pulled away was unexpected. After seeing episode 3, and we'll talk more about that in that video, I get it. I think it was cool because I was not expecting it. As a longtime reader, I did not expect for that to happen. So when it did happen, it blew my mind. I was like, what? And I didn't worry that she was dead, but I just was not expecting that scene to happen. So that was cool. It doesn't break my immersion or anything like that. And I get it, because if Nynaeve is there, then it makes Moraine getting the kids away, and I didn't really understand that in the books anyway, how she's just able to whisk them away without Nynaeve knowing. I can't really remember the reason Nynaeve is gone in the books. But yeah, I didn't expect that. But okay, cool. It's a change that I neither like nor dislike. After seeing episode 3, I get it a little bit. There are some issues with that, as far as like, how did she catch up to that people on horses like that? But okay. Okay, enough. Narg. Rafe, you couldn't give him at least one line? Just one? Why couldn't you just give him one line? Just Narg smart. That's all you had to say. That's all he had to say. But you couldn't give him one line? Come on, man, it's Narg. It's Narg. But I will say I like this version better than the books. Um, I like this version of this confrontation better than the books. I didn't like. I like the fact that we get to see Tam sword fight. I think that happens off screen in the books. Because Rand's sneaking around with a bow in the dark and stuff while a bunch of stuff happens. He gets out and so on and so forth. But I really like this scene. Tam looks like somebody that can use a sword. He's just really rusty. I just wish they had given Narg a line. Just one line. But I get it. Moraine and Lan show up in the middle of the slaughter. And we go to my second quibble, which isn't really a quibble. I would say this one is my disappointment in the fact that, and I know a lot of people out there have this, the fact that the weaving does not have 5 colors in it or multiple colors in it. But at the same time, I get it. I really do. It would be so much harder from a VFX standpoint. Not only do you have to color each individual strand or strands different colors, but you have to worry about ambient lighting too. And I was thinking about how this magic is portrayed compared to some other magics in films and televisions. Particularly Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch and all of those. And I was thinking about it, and they don't use multiple colors often. Now, Scarlet Witch uses red. Agatha uses purple. Doctor Strange either uses orange or green, but he never uses multiple colors at once. And it's so that they can do ambient lighting and make it look more realistic. When you have only one color and it's white, you can do things like shine practical lights on the set so that it's reflecting off of Lan's sword and it's lighting up her face and lighting up and reflecting off the pools of water on the ground and in the rain and stuff like that. So I get it. I am a little disappointed that it is not multiple colors, but I get it. And when I removed what it is described it later in the books, because in the first few books you don't know what weaving looks like. Jordan doesn't describe it because he's still, I think, working it out, and you only really learn what it looks like once the characters themselves start weaving it. But when I put aside what I thought weaving looked like and looked at the scene itself, it looks good. It holds up against things like Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch. It looks, to me, better than that. And that's where my wife, not being a book reader, really helped, because she was able to watch this and she loved it. She loved the look of the magic. It looks good. So I get it. But yeah. Some people have said they don't like the look, but honestly, I think it's just because what they were like me and they're letting what they have always imagined color their expectations. I think this looks good. On screen. I put it up there with anything Marvel does or anything any other magic show has managed to pull off. Interesting change from the books to close out too is Moraine healing Tam. Very cool that they added it in there so we could see what healing looks like. Really cool little detail there. But it does make Tam being awake feel a bit odd, because the Tam we see in the scenes doesn't feel like a Tam that would just let Rand go off. It also means him and Matt's dad aren't probably going to go off in search of the boys to the White Tower and ask where they are. It's a bit odd, but maybe they're going to play around with that in some direction that I don't know yet. But yeah, that was just a little change that I was like, huh, I'm surprised they didn't let him stay unconscious like he is in the books. But yeah, so my overall thoughts, I think I think the acting is phenomenal. I think the world building is amazing. I think everybody's performances of their individual characters is brilliant. down to even the bit roles and the one liners in the one episode, actresses and actors. I don't like a couple things, but it doesn't break the world for me. Even stuff like the sacred pool, it doesn't break the world. Even scenes like that does not break the experience for me. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Lan and Moraine's overly dramatic entrance into the Wine Spring Inn. That was the only moment that I rolled my eyes like, okay, but show off. But it didn't break it for me. I really enjoy the show. I think they're doing a phenomenal job at what they're trying to do, which is tell a new turning of the wheel. Yes, there are some things that I would do different, but I'm not a producer. I'm not a writer. I'm not a director. I don't know anything about taking a book and making it into a movie. I can only make assumptions. I've never actually done it. That's not where my experience, my education, my training is in. And so I trust that the professionals, the experts, are going to be better at it than I ever would. Little things like the ring design and stuff like that, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't break my immersion into this world. To me, I'm learning a whole new version of this world, and I enjoy it. It's not like this is going to ruin reading the books for me. When I read the books, I'm still going to see what I've seen for the past 16 years. When I watch the show, I'm still going to see a separate turning of the wheel, and I love it. I think they're doing an amazing job with a monumental task. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this. I'm going to try to get the other 2 episodes out before episode 4 comes out. We'll see with work schedules and stuff whether I can do that. But yeah, so far I'm loving it. The first 3 episodes have been great. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. All right. Thank you guys. I'm not going to do the typical YouTube thing of hit like and subscribe. You can do what you want. I don't do this for money or anything. I just do this to share my thoughts because it's too much to write down. Have a great one. Bless.